I think we might be live. Ooh,
Ooh, we're
I
live.
know. We are live. So it's Wednesday, and since it's Wednesday, you know what that means. It's Xbox 2 time. I'm Randall419, and you may know that or may not. What is going on, guys? Welcome. And I'm with my co-host, Jez Corden. What's going on, Jez?
Hi. Yeah, I'm Jez and I like video games. How about you?
Uh, I'm 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 Rand, and I love video games. How about you?
Yeah, video games are pretty cool things. Let's talk about them for an hour or so.
Should we? I mean, I don't know. I love video games. You like video games, so I think I love video games more than you, Jez. I mean, can you say that I don't?
No, I I can't I can't say that you don't because you've got a million gamer score. You are the man with the
Mm,
million.
yeah, but you're the
That,
man with the million Scorpio leaks, though.
that is true. Another one today, kind of. Part of
Yeah.
one.
Well,
Part of the
you
video.
should be like, hi guys, I'm Jez Corden, the man with the million Scorpio leaks.
Man,
That'd be a good intro.
When Scorpio gets revealed at E3, I'm just gonna be like, what is the point of my life now? I have
What
no
is?
reason to.
Yeah. What are you gonna do
Mm.
after Scorpio's completely out? What are you gonna turn your attention to? Windows Phone? Uh,
I hate you.
come- come on, Jez. I mean,
I
come on. You were pretty upset by the reveal of the what was that the Surface stuff?
yeah.
The
I
Surf.
now on reflection, I don't think it's that bad because it is similarly priced to 13-inch ultrabooks out there. But uh, I don't know. I just expected more of Surface. I think maybe too much. But
Mm,
forget Surface, forget Windows. This is all about Xbox.
it is all about Xbox.
That was my American accent. Did you catch it? Xbox.
Not really. Your American accent's not very good.
Xbox. That's how Americans say Xbox.
Xbox. Um.
Yeah.
Anyways, I hear you were making the rounds today in all the news publications for something you did.
Yeah, man, that was weird. I tweeted a clip of the Scorpio dev kit from a video I received, and GameSpot and Polygon and a bunch of other websites picked it up. It looks pretty cool, doesn't it? Little LCD front panel, little
It
animations there
it,
flying around.
it does actually look quite interesting. Um, but I wonder because I see people saying, well, they should include that. And it's like, really? Do you really want that on the? I mean, it looks cool, but like, I don't know if I'd want
Yeah,
that on my console.
yeah. I don't think it's I don't think consumers need that on their console, but for developers, it'll give them like quick access to all sorts of data and stuff, and developers can actually code. The developers can actually use the driver for the LCD front panel and code their own stuff to display on there. So, like, if
Hmm.
it's a developer wants stats that are more specific to his game, not necessarily FPS counters or whatever, then they can have that, leveraging the driver. So it's a nifty little feature. Some tech journals were like, "Oh, what's the point of that? It's stupid." Blah blah blah. And it's just like this thing's been built with developer feedback in mind. Microsoft didn't just whack an LCD screen on there for the lulls. Every aspect of the Scorpio dev kit has been designed based on developer feedback. Like the fact that it's stackable you can stack Scorpio without obscuring the airflow. That's following developer feedback, and the LCD front panel comes from developer feedback. So that's why it's there. But hack journalists gonna hack.
Oh, speaking of hack journal, are you referring to Ben Kuchera by chance?
Actually, I wasn't then, but yeah, I mean, we might as well.
Yeah, Polygon's gonna Polygon. So they wrote an article which I saw, and I was like, okay, this can't be a serious article. It's got to be satire, right? Because nobody's this dumb. And I mean, it is satire, but it's like the most god awful satire you could possibly imagine. Like, I get what he was trying to go for, but it's like his whole thing was they should include the LCD front panel on the Scorpio so that consumers know that it's better than the PS4 Pro. I mean, that was basically his whole argument, right?
Yeah, he was being sarcastic. It was like, you know, he was trying to like rile the notion of, people are gonna be counting the differences between Scorpio and PlayStation 4 Pro games and stuff like that. It's almost like a dig at Eurogamer, Digital Foundry, I guess. But at the end of the day, Polygon are just jealous that they can't do those in-depth comparisons because they will do anything for clicks. They will do
It will.
anything, like that article, you know.
Yeah, that article was very, very like I get that it was satire, but it was such bad
Bait. It was
uh
troll bait, man.
yeah,
It's like,
it was so
yeah,
bad.
it's like we most people will look at that and think, oh wow, that is just such bait, and then people who don't realize that it's bait will take it as like an insult, and they'll share it and be like, oh my god, look at this article being outraged, and then we'll share it like we're talking about it right now, saying how much of a bait it is. It's clever blogging. It's pure clickbait, and that's Polygon's model. They're an ad driven company, and that's what they have to do. I'm really privileged that Windows Central is like only a tiny bit of our revenue comes from ads, so I don't have to clickbait in order to pay the bills. So I do sympathize with them on that level, but God, gamers are starting to get smart about this stuff. And the more that they clickbait, the more that they make the media look bad,
Hmm.
and the more that they're screwing up everything in the world. They're going to cause
In
World
the
War
world,
Three
in the world.
with
Do
their
you
video
remember?
game clickbait.
Do you
So,
remember when I did my video about Ben? Well, it wasn't necessarily about Ben. It was about some of the media people out there, like um, who's the dude from Jason Schreier, right? That guy.
he
Um,
blocked me.
and they were basically talking about like, oh well, Scorpio's nothing if it doesn't have any games, and they like literally wrote articles like right after the Scorpio spec announcement. And it's funny because like so I brought that up, and I know a few press people out there and some people at Microsoft, and the amount of DMs I got from people saying that like, oh, by the way, people in the press make fun of Ben Kuchera, like, so good job. Like, it's not just like us, it's like his own peers think he's like ridiculous and make fun of him.
Yeah.
So um, yeah, Ben Kuchera,
Yeah.
another terrible article for Polygon. Like, look, you can write clever satire articles. I mean, people have been doing it since the dawn of time, since we invented writing, and and included
Nah, man,
parody and all that stuff.
they were doing it before then. They had their satire cave paintings and stuff, man.
Yeah,
It
but that
goes
was
way back.
just some just terror. It was like straddle the line of satire, but also wanting to like anger Xbox fans, so they would come click, and then of course they also has the thing of like, oh well, it pleases PlayStation fans, so you get both groups to come click on the stuff. But it's just like
Exactly, yeah. It's like
you should have, a better writer could have done a way better job with that article, in my opinion.
there's some really great clickbait satire websites out there, like Clickhole. Have you ever seen that website? It's like kind of
I have
like the
not seen
Onion.
Clickhole.
It's like kind of like the Onion, but it parodies clickbait. It's so funny and witty and well written and good satire. And Ben Kuchar can't do good satire. Shouldn't bother trying. But the thing is, that article will get clicks. Sometimes I want to make my own like video game satire website. I think that'd be really funny. There's some really good ones out there, but like they're kind of playing the console war too much. I don't think you need to do that. There's plenty of other things you could satire about, but man, screw the media.
But you're media.
I know.
Though. So are
Screw
you
me.
saying screw you?
Yeah, screw me. It's like people only become video game press because they're too dumb to make video games. That's the only reason they become video game press. Every video game journalist would rather be working in the industry rather than against it, and they're just all too dumb to work in the industry. They can't program. They can't make 3D models.
Mm.
So All video game journalists are dumb. That's the truth.
Well, we have a quick question here from Ross. He wants to know if I buy my games physically or digitally. So I buy my games digitally. I don't own any Xbox One games physically this gen when I was completely physical last gen. So I've completely moved to digital. I just bought Prey digitally, preloaded it last night. I'll buy Injustice 2 digitally when that is, more closer to that. I don't really pre-order games like too far in advance because what's the point? So yeah, I'm all digital. Jez is probably all digital, although Jez probably gets everything for free. So, that's all digital. Well, no, I think you get some physical stuff, don't you?
I usually give for example, I got Mass Effect Andromeda physical copy for review, but I hate physical, so I bought it like on digital as well. So I am 100% digital, and like if I do get physical copies for review, I usually just give them to my brother so he can have a go. Like, but I do miss that sense of ownership from having physical. But the problem is I don't have a home right now. I don't live anywhere, so I'm like moving from Xbox to Xbox, and I rely on the cloud, taking my games with me where I travel. So digital's perfect for me. I love the convenience of I can have my games, my saves anywhere, but I do miss that because like I've still got all my 360 games like perfectly on the shelf in alphabetical order, and it's like, yeah, this is my 360 collection, all in alphabetical order, and I do miss that sense of ownership, and it is a shame that you lose that with the digital stuff, but it's just so convenient.
It is extremely, extremely convenient. Although I've kind of lately on my Xbox, every time I go to my games and apps and I'll browse my stuff, it always crashes. Like every time.
Are you on the Alpha Ring?
I am in the Alpha Ring, yes, and I do submit bugs when I find them. Well, I know, but still, like, it is annoying. I mean, I know I'm in an Alpha Ring and I get in those bugs, and I honestly think it's because I have way too many games. Like, my install games is at like 252. My ready to install is at 530 something. So I just think it has trouble like loading all the games and stuff, because usually it crashes when I'm like browsing through it, like, and it'll just crash back to the dashboard. So
I think you've got twice as many games as me.
Well, I mean, I play a lot of video games, so I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. So
video games are life.
Video games are life, and I love
literally
them.
Nothing else matters except for video games. It's
well, make sure your girlfriend doesn't hear that though.
Oh well, she matters, but
she matters.
My girlfriend and video games. That's all that matter.
And alcohol.
And alcohol.
So we got three things. We got alcohol.
Alcohol's like the oil that keeps the machine running, and the video games are the engine, and the girlfriend's kind of like the chassis. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm gonna stop right now.
Okay. You don't want to. Yeah, you don't want to say something you don't want to say something you're gonna regret.
I'm weird on Jägermeister. It's weird.
I usually don't do this, but we got 105 people watching. Only 12 likes. Not many people like us, Jez. I thought we'd have more likes than that.
Yeah, I don't blame them for not liking.
I mean, I am Randall Pony.
You're Randall PlayStation these days.
Yeah, I mean, what did you say to me when you first jumped into the hangout?
I said you are now Randall PlayStation. That's your name.
Yeah, he said I've been sent here by Shuhei Yoshida to convert Xbox gamers to PlayStation gamers. I've been using my gamer score as a front this entire time. It's been a 12-year mission, but I am getting paid. Yes, I've been getting paid handsomely by Sony Corporation. They paid for my journey of these last 12 years of getting gamer score, getting cozy with people at Xbox, and getting people to like me and people, the people around the Xbox community, only to just lead them to the PlayStation. I mean, that is exactly what some
Yeah.
people have DM'd me lately. It's like, oh, you figured out the. I mean, okay. Sony does pay pretty well, and the benefits are great. So, I mean, you would do the same too.
You get Xperia phones, nice
Mm-hmm.
TVs. What Sony Walkman? Do they still make those?
I don't know.
I don't know.
No, I mean, they didn't give me a Sony Walkman. They were just, they just, they just, they just promised cash money. Just like, just
Cash
get Gamerscore for
money.
12 years, and in 12 years' time, when we don't need you, just convert all your followers into PlayStation gamers. It took a long time, but people finally caught on, and I've been outed. I'm changing my gamer tag to Randall Pony 19, the man with no PlayStation. Is gonna be my new tagline, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Oh dear. We got a question from Rancy.
What is the question?
Gamers. Random Jez, do you think there'll be multiple SKUs of Scorpio at launch? Right now, I'm sitting on so many leaks right now that don't know. I don't know which is true and which I imagined, but in the back of my mind somewhere says that there will be multiple SKUs of Scorpio, but I don't know why I think that. I don't know if someone told me that, or if I've read it in a leak, or if I read it in an interview. But for some reason, my brain's telling me that yes, there will be multiple SKUs of Scorpio.
I think there'll be multiple SKUs as well.
Yeah. I don't know where I got that information from. I've lost track of where all of my information is coming from right now. I need to be like the shadow broker from Mass Effect. But
I think there'll be 2 SKUs as well.
Yeah.
But I see Mr. Colt Eastwood, who, by the way, has a great YouTube channel you guys should go check out. I've been binge watching a lot of his content. He has a question. He says, do you really think that Sony's going to let Digital Foundry call Scorpio the better console for the next 2 to 3 years?
Ah, man. It's hard to say. Now, this week's Surface Laptop it became a thing. So I'm sort of out of the loop with Xbox right now. And I did see that you had a video up. PS5 is not releasing in 2018. So what is the rumor about the PS5 that I've missed?
Well, I mean, I'll address Code Eastwood's question first, and then we'll jump into the PS5 stuff, and then we'll jump into Phil Spencer hates single-player games, therefore hates all gamers. So, look, I think Digital Foundry is going to have to call, like, Digital Foundry. The way I've always viewed Digital Foundry as, like, they just speak the technical facts. This game runs at this resolution. This game runs at this frame rate. If you have an Xbox and that's all you have, then that's like the only decision you can make. But if you have multiple, obviously, PC version's the best, PS4 version second, Xbox third, right? I think that's all going to change, and I think they will say that the Xbox version is the best version, unless. See, I don't know how they're going to are they going to review each game separately twice? Like, for example, are they going to review Call of Duty World War II, for example? Are they going to review that on the PS4 Pro and the Scorpio and determine which one of those is the better version, and then do another test to determine which is the better version on Xbox One and PlayStation 4? Because in those scenarios, yeah, Digital Foundry, like, they'll say the Scorpio version is going to be the better version just because it's the more powerful system. But then they'll also have the thing, well, if you don't own those, the PS4 version is the better version than the Xbox version. So even though they'll be saying Scorpio is the better version, they'll also be saying, since nobody really owns that version of the system, nobody really owns Scorpio and Pro, that the one to buy is still the PlayStation version. So I think that's how they'll get around that. I don't know. What do you think, Jez?
I don't know, man. I mean, if Digital Foundry just stopped comparing them directly, people would call them out so fast. So it's not like they can actually do that. And to be honest, it's not like they'd want to do that either. I mean, I actually believe Digital Foundry have like, I know that Digital Foundry has been instrumental in this the pixel war that we had the last 3 years over Xbox One and PlayStation 4. Which game has the most pixels and the most frames? Blah blah blah. Measuring it with a fine tooth comb. They have been instrumental in that, but I do believe that they have journalistic integrity. They're not just doing it to pander to Sony. It's just because gamers want to see those comparisons. Both sides want to see those comparisons. And when a game does run better on Xbox One, and it does happen sometimes, Xbox fans love it.
It doesn't happen that often. Not that often.
It happens.
Not that often. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but well, I get what Cole's trying to say. Because, like, are they going to say for the next 2-3 years? Because the PS5 stuff, like, when is the next Sony system, right? Well, essentially, Sony's going to lose every Digital Foundry face-off for every single game going forward when it's Scorpio versus Pro. What I think they're going to do is they're also going to test PS4 versus Xbox, because they're going to say, hey, a lot of people, this is the major, like, the most people own these two. So they'll be able to say, yeah, Scorpio's the better system, but at the same time, get a PlayStation. If you don't have those, get a PlayStation. So I think they'll probably hedge their bets on both. Because you know what's going to happen. The Xbox Scorpio will be the best, outside of the PC version, of course. And then the PS4 version will be the best outside of the two base models, right? And that's kind of been
in theory, but don't forget Don't forget the Xbox One itself has a lot of XDK improvements coming up.
True.
Shader Model 6 is going in June, I think, for Xbox One. And also there's various other improvements coming to the base model Xbox One to try and help with things like resolution. And I do think Microsoft's goal is to get parity with the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, despite the issues with the SRAM and all the bottlenecks and all that stuff. Microsoft are trying to use software magic to get to that mark. So I do think they're going to still compare PlayStation 4 to Xbox One, because those are the mass market console. They're going to be the mass market consoles. They're going to be the consoles that are going to be price cut to hell on Black Friday, and the ones that everyone rushes out to buy. And they'll still be doing those comparisons, but I think the gap's just going to keep shrinking, across the board, and you're going to have Scorpio at the top end, and I think the gap could shrink, maybe even disappear between PS4 and Xbox One. It's possible, I mean, we've seen it happen across some games that you wouldn't have expected at the start of the gen, like Frostbite games and stuff like that. I mean, Battlefield 1, is that 1080p on PS4 or 900p?
Battlefield 1, I think, was 900 on Xbox and 1080p on PlayStation. I could be wrong, though, because I remember Star Wars Battlefront was 720 on Xbox and 900 on PlayStation. Yeah, and then I think Battlefield 1 was a little bit better. But let's talk about PlayStation 5.
No. Oh, hang on. No. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead. What do we got? We got something else?
Oh, no, sorry. I just wanted to check what the frame rate was.
I mean, Battlefield games are
60 frames. Sorry. The PlayStation 4 version of Battlefield 1 outputs at around 1000p, falling to 900p with dynamic scaling. The Xbox One version has a baseline of 900p and falls to 720p during heavy load. So the gap has shrunk considerably from Battlefront. That is a pretty considerable shrinkage right there, and it could be improved further. So I think, but this is the thing. The narrative is shifting away from graphics. The narrative is shifting away from graphics, and people are going to stop caring so much.
Well, hold on 1 second here. I mean, I know the narrative has shifted away from graphics, but if you ask somebody what they thought of the Prey demo, first thing they'll say is it looks like shit graphics wise. That whole thread on NeoGAF is about the graphics. So even though the graphics discussion is kind of shifted to exclusive games, you can clearly see some of it it's not necessarily always true. I mean, just go look at the thread about the Prey demo on NeoGAF. People are just lambasting that game for how it looks and the graphics and things like that.
Mm.
So the graphics are important. I mean, the NPD put out that data. We talked about 2 podcasts ago about like 68% of people's decisions to buy a game are based on how good the game looks. And of course, people don't want to hear that, right? Like, there's like, well, that's dumb, but it's true. I mean, it's why these companies are constantly trying to one up themselves to make the better looking game. You know, even though the games are more expensive to make every single year, and you essentially can't charge any more money than $60. Graphics turns people on. Otherwise, why are PC gamers going out there and buying what 1080? I don't even know what a graphics card like. Are they going out there and getting 1080i's, TI's, or whatever? Obviously, it's important. You know, like otherwise people wouldn't do these things. So usually people will say something, but then their actions completely betray what they say. And I think people do care about. I mean, let's talk about it really fast. Phantom Dust, Polygon, for whatever reason, had the exclusive reveal from Phantom Dust. And what did everybody say today? What did they all say today? Jazz, tell me. What did they say? What was everybody saying?
Game of yeah.
No, they said, look at that pile of trash. Look how bad that game looks, right? But I thought graphics didn't matter anymore. Well, clearly they still do. Because it wasn't about, hey, this game looks interesting because it was a very interesting game back in 2003 when I played it on the Xbox. No, the talk was, look at how shitty that game looks, right? I mean, come on.
It's an OG Xbox game. What do people expect, you know?
I know it's an OG Xbox game, but still, like, people will say in one breath, power doesn't matter, resolution doesn't matter, all that stuff, and then Xbox they'll be like, Phantom Dust looks like garbage, or this game looks like shit. It clearly matters to people. So, I mean, will that translate to Scorpio sales in the future? We won't know. But anyways, let's talk about some PlayStation 5. Because for whatever reason, it's back in the news yet again. The analyst who correctly predicted the PS4 Slim and the PS4 Pro is now saying again that the PS5 is coming next year. And it's like, listen, I could predict the PS4 Slim because these companies do slim models all the time. That's like predicting the sun will rise tomorrow. It's not impressive. And he also predicted the Pro, which would be considered, I would consider to be impressive if all those leaks didn't happen to begin with. So, but we're talking about it because people are running with it. People want, a lot of the like Sony Ultra fanboys don't like the idea that all the games will be better on Xbox, from what I've seen and from what people have tweeted me. So they're running with this narrative that Sony's going to put out PS5 next year, which I think is dumb. I don't think Sony has a reason to do that. I don't even think Sony even really cares what Microsoft does, to be honest. I don't even think they care what Scorpio's like. They're so comfortably ahead of everybody that I don't think they worry about what Microsoft is doing. You know?
I agree. I think they're kind of like, they're both sort of settling into monetizing their existing fan bases now, that it doesn't matter as much as it used to. I mean, Microsoft, the Xbox division's posting like $1 billion revenue every quarter. And obviously, we all know how well PlayStation's doing. As long as these businesses are healthy, you know, I think that's the important thing. And I mean, obviously, Microsoft would like to be out in front, but I don't think PlayStation needs to eat into their bottom line by releasing another console next year, because that's going to be costly, you know, and you're further fragmenting your user base already. They've fragmented it across PlayStation 4 Pro and PlayStation 4 Now, and they want to fragment developers again by releasing a 8K console in 2018 or proper 4K console in 2018. I don't see it personally, but then again, I don't know. It depends how much. I mean, Sony could do it, I guess, but it depends how much they revalue that power narrative. And I don't really think they need to worry about Scorpio that much, because they got God of War coming, they got Last of Us 2 coming, and those are system sellers, you know. And at the end of the day, people are still buying the PlayStation 4 before the Pro anyway, because most people don't have 4K TVs. So I think if Sony released a PS5 in 2018, that'd be a really strange knee-jerk reaction that I think would not benefit them as much as the fanboys would think it would.
Yeah,
And
and go ahead, keep on going.
I was just going to say the only people who really care about PlayStation 4 Pro having an extra 200p over Scorpio are the hardcore fanboys right now. Most people are just like, oh, cool, I got a PlayStation 4 Pro. It runs most games, you know, at least close to 4K. I don't really care about the rest, you know. That's most people.
Yeah.
It's only the fanboys who
Well, I
really
mean,
care about that little tiny little gap.
Well, Phil's even come out and said, "Hey, the Xbox One S is going to be the one that sells the most." Last year when the Pro was out, the PS4 Slim was the one that sold the most because price matters. Like you're not going to like when their holidays come and PS4 Slim and the Xbox One S are $200 with a couple games. That's what people are going to pick up in comparison to a $350, $400 PS4 Pro or $400 or $500 Scorpio. The people who are going to buy Scorpio are just your ultra hardcore fanboys. I'm getting one, you're getting one, Tim Dog's getting one.
I'm getting two. Put me down for two.
Okay, you're getting two. I'm getting one. I'm just saying, like, so and don't really at this point. Sony and Microsoft are both partnered with AMD. AMD makes the chipsets. Microsoft would know. See, here's the thing. I think Sony and Microsoft both know when both each other's consoles are coming out because they work with the same partner on their thing. So I seriously doubt if Microsoft knew that the PS5 was coming next year that they'd release Scorpio this year. They probably would have waited for another year and released the same system.
I think so.
I think so.
I don't think so.
Because I don't know. Because building the most powerful console ever only for a year, and when the PS5 is going to take that gap.
Just the simple act of announcing Scorpio last year has been hugely disruptive. It's been hugely disruptive, you know.
Yeah, I mean, fair. Yeah, you're right. Fair enough. But at the same time, we know the PS5 is going to come at some point, right?
Yeah, of course it will. And it'll be good.
Even when Mark Cerny was on stage unveiling the PS4 Pro, he said it was a mid-gen console upgrade. Mid-gen implying the middle of the generation. 2013 for PS4, 2016 for PS4 Pro, mid-gen, so another 3 years. So you're looking at 2019 at the earliest. 2020 is the 25th year anniversary of PlayStation in general. So I think PS5 is going to come out in 2019, and then
that makes sense.
And then 2020 they'll put out like a 25th year edition of it, so they can get people to buy it again. So I think you're looking at 2020. I think Scorpio and
maybe they'll do a Nintendo and re-release the PlayStation 1. I'll buy that.
Yeah. Then also, I honestly think, because I don't really see them leapfrogging each other like they did with Scorpio and Pro. I wouldn't be surprised if the next Xbox launches in 2019 with the PS5. If the PS5 is in whatever year it comes out, whether it's 2019 or 2020, I think they both launched the same console the same year.
Yeah, it'll be weird if we do get this sort of every few years there's a new console and they leapfrog each other. But the thing is, if we do go to that model, games are going to become so important more than ever. Exclusive games are going to become the most important thing. So, you know, and that kind of brings us to our next topic.
Yes, it does. Well, Phil Spencer made some interesting comments about single player recently, about single player games.
Indeed.
And,
let's recap. He said single player games suck, and he's never releasing any single player games on Xbox ever again. No,
never ever again. Never again. That's his words, straight from the Guardian. Single player blows. You play single player, you're less of a human.
Yeah,
you dirty, filthy human, and that multiplayer is here forever.
Yep. And if you want single player games, he said you buy an Ouya. That's what you need. Yeah.
Yeah, he basically pulled a Don Matrick and said, if you want to play your games in a submarine, there's a system for you, or whatever Don Matrick said. Remember Don Matrick? Remember how he almost single-handedly ruined the entire Xbox brand?
He was bad.
He was
They should
pretty
never
bad.
have him
And there,
talking
you know
to
what's
anyone.
funny? You know what's funny though is there are a contingent of Xbox people out there, like fans, who want Don Matrick to come back.
Well, they're not smart
Yeah, he
people.
ruined Xbox, and then he went to Zigna and ruined them. He's a ruiner. Call him Don the Ruiner Matrick.
It's not like the Xbox 360 had a huge amount. Xbox 360 had a huge amount of exclusives either. Really, it just had the right hardware. But anyway, slightly off track here. Phil didn't say Xbox was getting no single player game. Man, I remarked upon this on Twitter, and I got so much hate for it. I said all Phil was saying was that multiplayer games are eating single player games' lunch. That's all he said. And it's a fact. It is a fact. That's what the data says. That's all he said. And but Phil was crucified for this and taken out of context, and I thought it was unfair. I thought it was very unfair. You didn't think it was unfair.
Well, I mean, okay. So I made those two videos, right?
Randall Pony.
Because Randall Pony. So he said in the Guardian stuff, he was talking about like, and you know what? Maybe some of the ire he it was because he mentioned Horizon Zero Dawn and Zelda. Like, I think if he would have mentioned like Ghost Recon or another third-party game, I don't think it blows up as much. But he mentioned two of the biggest current single-player games on competing platforms, right? So that kind of like drew in the fanboys. But he's mentioning that those games are more rare. They don't have as much impact because they cost so much to make, that the industry is moving towards this games as a service, and you can see it with games like Overwatch and Rainbow Six Siege, Halo 5, Gears.
I mean,
like
listen to this. Like PlayerUnknown. Have you heard of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds?
Yes, I've heard of it, yes.
A multiplayer mod is now at 2 million players in a matter of weeks. You know.
Right. Well, I mean, mods have exploded on PC scene. I mean, H1Z1 and things like that. But
yeah, exactly. But this is the lightning in the bottle that they're trying to capture.
Right.
This game has no hype.
Right. I mean, Microsoft wants kind of like the Minecraft model, right? That type of a game that they can build that's going to make money for them for a long time, instead of a game like Quantum Break, which is a relic. As good as the game is, and I like Quantum Break a lot. I gave it a 9 out of 10. I know a lot of you in chat are probably like, ew, Rand, why? But I like those type of games. I love Remedy. Time travel is my jam. So sci-fi time travel, yes, I like that game a lot. So, but the problem with Remedy, the problem with a game like that, is that comes out, it sells for the first week or two, and then never sells again. There's no more engagement for any of that type of stuff.
And
now,
I'm not like traded in as well.
Well, right. I'm not justifying anything that like Phil said, right? Like he's like, I knew when I read this stuff, like I completely agree with him 100%. The industry is moving towards games as a service because that is the games that make money. And the industry doesn't care if it's a single player game or it's a multiplayer game. All they care about is making money. So these developers and these publishers are going to make games to go after that thing. Now, where I kind of got, I looked at it was I was trying to predict Xbox's game lineup in the future, like exclusive wise, right? So I took Phil's statement of how he sees the industry moving forward and what, how games as a service basically drives the industry, and that single player games are rare because they're more expensive and things like that. And I was trying to apply his statement on that to the first party stuff, because clearly we don't know anything about first party going forward to the future. We don't know about any of the rest of the games this year when they're coming out. We don't know anything about 2018, right? So I was like, okay, well, if Phil thinks this, right? And if he thinks that single player is more rare, and then you take that and you couple it with, hey, all the single player focused new IP that I brought out this gen were all not supported by the Xbox community because they came out, nobody bought them, they failed, and we're not making sequels for all of their games besides maybe Ori and the Blind Forest. So it wasn't, I was just thinking, you know what, moving forward, is it that too much of a leap to think that the games Microsoft will make going forward are games that have a strong co-op multiplayer component with long-lasting engagement with gear, like gear packs or whatever, that type of stuff, where you can have that over the course of time instead of a singular game like Quantum Break that is super expensive to make and nobody cares about after the game has been out for 2 weeks. And that was my whole point of that thing, because we don't know. And the not knowing, and I've mentioned this before, we've talked about this on the podcast, really irks a lot of people. You know what's coming. You don't have to guess at things. Like they put out their all their games they're doing for the next 2 to 3 years, and there's like, here's the games lineup. With Xbox, it's like you're guessing and speculating, and that's kind of what we do sometimes on this podcast. We speculate about the future of things, and mainly because, well, Xbox is so uncertain that all we can do is speculate about the future of the system. And I am invested in the ecosystem, clearly, even though Shuhei Yoshida is paying my checks for the last 12 years. I'm clearly invested, so I clearly want to see, I am invested in the brand, and I want to see the brand continue to grow in the future. And I am friends with a lot of people at Xbox. I want the console to do well for not only my sake, but for their job security and their sakes, right?
Oh, well, don't worry about that.
Well, I'm just saying, like, when you become friends with people, you want to see them succeed.
They'd have to really screw up for Xbox to get.
I'm just saying, like, when you're friends with people, you want to see them succeed just as much as they want to see you succeed, right? Like, a lot of people at Xbox are very supportive of what I do on my YouTube channel, right? Because I'm friends with them. So when I looked at like the games and things like that, I was just like, what are we going to see in the future? And I've been very vocal about, I don't think E3 this year is going to have a lot of surprises. I think what you're going to see is Halo 6, and what you're going to see is Ori 2. And is that a bad thing? Is that a good thing? Especially in like the face of Nintendo and what they're doing. Like, they can do no wrong right now.
Well, Nintendo aren't even at E3, are they?
Yeah, but Nintendo doesn't need to be at E3 though.
No, they
don't.
They don't need to be there.
Yeah, I mean, and I know people got upset with that. Like, what do you mean? Like, Nintendo's not going to be at E3 again? Like, they haven't been in E3 in years. The Switch is doing just fine without any E3 thing. Like, they're going for a different audience again than PlayStation and Xbox. They're doing their own thing. Nintendo, marches to the beat of their own drummer. But I'm just curious about what Microsoft is building for the future. And I took Phil's comments, I tried applying it to the first party, and a lot of people, they thought I was complaining about it. I'm not complaining about it. Like, obviously, like, nothing's set in stone, and Microsoft could come out at E3 and blow us away, and at that point I'll say I was completely wrong. Thank God I'm wrong. Like, I just get a tad bit worried. You know what I'm saying? Like, is that a normal response?
No, I completely know where you're coming from, but like, they've got a tough act to follow. I mean, last year they announced Scorpio. The year before they announced backwards compatibility. And both of those announcements defined the E3. Backwards compatibility defined E3 2 years ago, and Scorpio defined E3 last year. Now the problem is they've already shown off Scorpio. We already know everything it can do, pretty much. I don't think there's anything that we don't know about Scorpio at this point. So there's not going to be any more surprises on the Scorpio front. The only thing that can really surprise us with is the price. And and that won't really be like, that's not going to dominate the narrative like a big game announcement would. So, but Microsoft is in a hard position right now because all the deals that were made under Matrick are gone now, and this is now Phil's era, So it's almost like we're in a period of transition, almost, I think. And obviously Microsoft have plans for the future, but those plans will take time to come to fruition. And Microsoft have sort of painted themselves in a corner where they can't be like, we're going to announce this game now, because people will just be like, well, is this game even going to exist in 3 years? Because Phantom Dust Remastered got cancelled, Fable Legends got cancelled, Scalebound got cancelled, and all these other games got cancelled. And they've sort of painted themselves in a corner where they don't want to announce games too early, but people are thirstier than ever to find out what the shape of the ecosystem is going to look like in a couple of years. Because we move into an ecosystem world now where it's like, okay, if we're going to have consoles that leapfrog each other every couple of years, then the most important thing is the ecosystem. So knowing what's coming in 2018 and 19, maybe even 19, is going to be more important than ever, And I think Microsoft need to take that risk and give us a longer roadmap than they have in previous years. Because usually we only get the roadmap for the year ahead. We need the roadmap for 2 years ahead this year, I think. I don't know what you think about that.
Do you think all right? I mean, that would be great, but I mean, Phil's already talked about how he doesn't want to show games too early because they've been burned by that. Like you mentioned, Phantom
Yep.
Dust, with
Yep.
Scalebound, clearly, Fable Legends, clearly. So there are games that, I don't think Phil wants to show super early in development because, like you said, they kind of get a thing for being like the Grim Reaper, essentially. And the thing is, though, like, if you had to guess what Microsoft's 2-year plan is game wise, I mean, what would you guess it would be?
I
I
have
mean,
no
like,
idea. I have
I mean,
no idea.
let me ask you this: do you think Coalition's working on 2 games? Do you think they're working on Gears 5 and something else?
I don't know. I mean, this is like, I've got leaks left, right, and center about UWP, about Scorpio, about Windows, but I know absolutely nothing about Microsoft Studios and what they're doing, and that part of Xbox is locked down watertight. So kudos to Shannon Loftus for that. But I have
Right.
no idea what they're doing. I have no idea what they're up to.
Well, Mega
Phil,
Chris says leaks ruin the show. Rand, thanks. Like I get it. Like for some people,
yeah,
leaks.
I'm sitting on leaks for E3 that I haven't leaked because I don't want to ruin the surprise.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not jaded enough to just leak that for clicks, because I still remember how I always tell this story. I remember when Killer Instinct Killer Instinct Reboot was announced. I loved Killer Instinct as a little kid. I loved it so much. I had the special edition for the Super Nintendo, black cartridge with the OST in it. And when they announced Killer Instinct at E3, it was like such a magical moment for me. And I would hate to spoil a similar moment like that for the people. So I tend, when I leak stuff, I tend to stick to the side of things that like wouldn't be that much of a big deal, but people are still interested to hear about.
Mm-hmm.
So there are surprises coming, but again, these are all things on the feature side of things. I don't know what surprises are coming on the game side of things, and it's as a as a leaker, it's kind of frustrating to not know what's on the way. But on the flip side, it's kind of exciting because it's kind of like, if there are Killer Instinct like surprises at E3, it'd be amazing. But at the same time, I really don't know what they could do right now. They've got like Edge, like if we look at their class, the IP that people really want to see revived is Fable, right? I don't know which dev would be picking up Fable right now. I don't know who would be working on Fable right now. Rare is all in with Sea of Thieves, and they're the obvious choice to make a new Fable.
Oh, you missed the point for a pun there. You could have said all hands on deck.
I did that already. I
Yeah.
did that twice. I didn't want to milk it, but I'm gonna start thinking of other puns now that you said that. But they might announce a new Fable, But again, that franchise has this sort of cloud hanging over it. And who would be developing the new Fable? Another second party? What kind of second party will be able to make Fable, which will be compared to the likes of The Witcher 3? Because
Oh, well, there you go. CD Projekt Red. Hire CG Projekt Red to make you Fable. Boom, done.
Well, that's a lot of money that I don't think Microsoft would spend, and a lot of risk. Antithetical to what Phil said about single player games, that there's all this risk. So it's kind of like, does Microsoft want to take the risk to give Fable to a second party who could squander their investment, like Platinum Games seems to have done so, allegedly, quote unquote. But and then you've got like Age of Empires with Creative Assembly makes a lot of sense, but at the same, because Age of Empires 2 still has like this huge following and stuff, and it's kind of like Creative Assembly made Halo Wars, which is a really, really good game, but it's associated with console, and I think for real-time strategy, you really need that hardcore PC audience. Age of Empires can achieve that, I think, but I don't know if that would be on the horizon either, you know. And Creative Assembly are working on other games as well, and Alien Isolation 2's even been rumored. I don't know if how true that.
Yes, I love that game. But I mean, it kind of goes to my point of asking you earlier. Do you really think Coalition is large enough where they could work on multiple projects at a time? Like, I know people have been clamoring for 343 to make a Lock spinoff. Are they big enough where they can work on Halo 6 and another game at the same time?
I don't know. I really don't know. It's weird because you have to remember that the Coalition used to be called Black Tusk Studios, and they were big enough to be working on a AAA by themselves. And then they bought Gears of War, and then a lot of the staff who worked on the Gears franchise jumped across from Epic Games to the Coalition. So in theory, making the studio much bigger. And Microsoft put a lot of investment into Gears 4, which apparently underperformed. And,
don't say that, Jazz. Don't say that. People won't believe you unless you got the facts to back that up.
Well, it's just what I heard. You know, I don't know if it's true or not. It's just what I heard. I mean, but either way, even if it did underperform, it's got those microtransactions that people buy by the bucket load. So it's not like it didn't.
Disgusting microtransactions. Those are some of the worst. Did you see in China they actually have to, like, the law came out and they have to, like, put out the odds of that shit should be standard.
Yeah, that's a good law.
Yeah, because
that law. Good one, China.
Good one, China. Good one.
We'll probably
yes. That's where a lot of like the doubt and like, hey, like I want a Fable 4. I love Fable, but at the same time, I know Microsoft Studios situation, and I'm like, well, Rare's working on Sea of Thieves. Is it possible that Rare could be their next project? Like, there's a group within Rare work, prototyping Fable 4. Sure, that's a possibility. But even then,
a lot of Lionhead went to Rare. You know,
I only heard it was a few people that went to Rare.
Well, some did. I don't know. Rare Lionhead wasn't exactly a massive studio.
Or is what Jess says earlier more likely solution? They're going to give Rare to a second party like Armature, who did Recore, and say, build us this game.
And then they'll be really understaffed and under budget, and then make a really underwhelming game like Recore that will piss people off.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the when you have a collection of studios and all the studios exactly the games they're working on, because we know exactly all the games they're working on. We can go down the list. Turn 10's working on Forza Motorsport 7. They don't work on anything else besides Forza Motorsport. Done. 343 presumably on Halo 6. If you look at the history of that studio, they only did one game at a time. Even if they are working on other projects, doesn't mean it's coming out, right? Boom, Halo 6. Coalition, Gears 5, boom, done. What else we got? Undead Labs. They're just about to put out State of Decay 2. They ain't doing anything else. What else? How many other studios do we got, Jez? Rare's on Sea of Thieves. They're not doing anything else.
Crackdown is a second party, right?
Crackdown is being made by I heard there's like 3 studios on Crackdown, by the way.
Yeah, Sumo Digital is working on Crackdown.
Yeah, Sumo Digital, and then like David Jones company, and then a different company. Although Microsoft did sign a partnership with Studio Gobo. Did you see that?
Yeah, the Toys to Life company that made Disney Infinity, right? But they announced a partnership with Ubisoft as well at the same time, which a lot of people miss this fact. They announced a partnership with Ubisoft and Microsoft in almost the same week. So I don't think they're working on an exclusive. I think they're working on a new platform of some sort, and Microsoft are involved and Ubisoft are involved. Maybe like Microsoft are letting them license their IP to make new Toys to Life things, and so is Ubisoft. I don't think that's going to be an exclusive game.
I mean, okay, so previously, this Studio Gobo, they made some Disney Infinity playsets, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, Star Wars Rise Against the Empire, and Disney's Mona, which I think is unreleased. On their website, they have job listings for 2 different games. One is a third-person AAA character action console game, and the other is a exciting free-to-play product based on a globally recognized IP for a major publisher.
That's gotta be Microsoft.
You think it's a free-to-play game and not a third? I mean, what their bread and butter, judging from the games they make, because
that sounds just like what Microsoft's MO. So okay, so they're making a free to play. They're got to be working on Minecraft or something, maybe. I don't know.
Well, what if because you know there was that demo that came out of Halo Mega Blocks, which remember with the canceled video, and then like Bonnie Ross came out and was talking about that. What if they do something like that? A Toys to
No.
Life, like I
Well,
know it's kind of I know
either
it's kind
way,
of
it's
late
not
to
for
getting
me.
what?
Either way, it's not for me. I know that whatever
Oh,
they are working on, it's not for core
it's
gamers. It's
not for
gonna be for
Jez.
it's for kids, man. It's not gonna be for me.
Well, okay, but would Microsoft really get into Toys to Life genre when it's basically dead now? I mean, Disney Infinity's gone.
Yes, they
Skylanders pretty much
would.
gone. Skylanders is gone. The only one that is still
Don't
around
forget
is
they've got
Lego.
mixed. Don't forget they've got mixed reality in 3D to try and figure out.
Yeah,
So it's
okay. Oh, you're right. You're right. Um,
so assume I just let's
I
just
don't.
assume they're working on something for HoloLens that's free to play. Probably, I don't know. It's probably a VR game. It's like Lift London as well. That's another Microsoft Studio. They're working on VR games for mixed reality, probably. Um,
So you think out of these two choices, you think they're working on a free to play game with Microsoft of
I
some
think so.
kind?
Yeah.
Oh, Jazz.
I'd like
You
to be
bring me
wrong, but I just
Why you
can't see
bringing me
it.
down though, man? I was like third person AAA character action console game sounds kind of cool because that is the type of game they made for Disney Infinity was third person action game with but a free to play. I mean, I see what you're saying, like, but Jazz, why you do this to me, dude?
It's going to be a Minecraft Toys to Life game, probably.
Minecraft.
I don't know. I don't know.
Minecraft. Well, you did mention VR and AR, so I wanted to ask you this question. Um, do you think Microsoft spends any time at E3 this year talking about VR or AR?
Yes, I would say so because they dedicated some time to Minecraft VR last year. I'd imagine they're going to dedicate some time to VR this year. Even if it's just to say, yeah, VR's coming, here's a prototype, blah blah blah, Um, that could be it.
Hmm. See, I don't. I mean, I did read today or a couple days ago that Oculus won't be there for the first time in like 4 years. So Oculus Rift ain't going to be
Oh,
at E3.
they might be on Microsoft stage though.
I don't know. I don't think people give a shit about VR anymore. I think V. I mean, I think I
I agree. I
and
agree.
and AR. I mean, Microsoft people are saying AR is like still years away. I mean, I know they're going to have some sort of like when people when you people try to put together like what Microsoft's presentation is going to be. People always forget Minecraft, but Minecraft will have a presentation at the conference because, well, it's their biggest game, basically. Like, people forget that. People forget that Minecraft is basically, I almost argue
Well,
Minecraft's bigger than
I'm,
Microsoft at this point.
I'm gonna put this in there right now. I know for a fact that Minecraft's gonna be at E3.
Well, of course, it's their biggest franchise. It's bigger than Halo. It's bigger than any PlayStation game. It's probably bigger than any Nintendo game at this point.
Yeah, it's
Like,
huge. It's
it's just that
ridiculously
it's not
huge.
exclusive, so nobody really talks about it anymore. But hey, part of the reason it is so big is because it's literally everywhere. Minecraft is ubiquitous. There's a word
It
for
is
you.
ubiquitous. Yeah. You
There's,
just can't avoid it. It's like my parents have heard of it. If your parents have heard of it, then you know it's big.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's just like it's hard to figure out what Microsoft could possibly be working on right now. I just absolutely have no idea. Nothing really makes sense to me. I mean, what could they possibly do? What we know there's not going to be any sequels for the Remedy games, Alan Wake. We know there's not going to be a Quantum Break sequel. We know Remedy are working on some new game.
Well, yeah. Let's talk about that right now. I mean, that's a good transition. So they're working on a game for the Korean market. I forget. It's called like Crossfire 2 or whatever, right? But then their second game they're working on is it's a code name P7, and they just announced today that it is being published by 505 Games, right? So when I originally heard this, I'm like, ew, 505 Games. Oh my God, how the mighty have
Hey,
fallen.
I like 505 games. Screw
Nah,
you, man.
like No, would you like 505? Like, I'm sorry, what have they published recently that makes you say like, yeah, that's a great publisher?
Zumba Fitness, nah.
What,
Rocket League,
what,
man.
whatever. Zumba Fitness, get out of here.
They publish Rocket League, Defense Grid.
Rocket League is self-published. Like, I don't. You're talking about like the physical version of the game.
I don't know, maybe.
I'm positive like Rocket League is self-published on PlayStation and PSN and
Bloodstained
Xbox,
Ritual of the Night.
which isn't even
They're
out yet.
publishing that.
Uh-huh.
Cooking Mama for the
Cooking
Nintendo
Mama,
DS.
Look, they
That's
they are a
game,
B tier developer. When you hear a game is being published for 505 games, you're just like, yeah. So let me finish reading this thing off. It says, the group will publish the brand new game by contributing 7.75 million pounds, I'm assuming this is pounds, in development funding and providing marketing and publishing services through 505 games for digital and retail versions worldwide. The agreement includes a payment of 45% royalties on net sales. And the new game is codenamed Project 7 as a cinematic third-person action game set in a new Remedy-created universe, featuring an intriguing story and a game structure offering a long-lasting experience, which basically means, to me, episodic. P7 contains the deepest game mechanics yet in a Remedy game. The game is built on Remedy. Like, look, so are you telling me that $8 million could have gotten Microsoft fucking Remedy's next game? Because that is all 505 is putting into it, besides like the marketing and all that stuff. They only put in 8 million pounds for this thing. Is this how far the mighty has fallen? Did Sony like look at this, be like, nah, Take-Two, nah, EA, nah, Ubisoft, nah? Like they get to the point where they get to the bottom tier publishers and someone's like, yeah, we'll give you $8 million. Like that is how far Remedy fall, and that is how like far
You're
Microsoft.
gonna make me cry, man.
I'm just saying, look at what they just said. Like $8 million investment. Now pounds. What is that in US? Maybe 12-ish. I'm not sure what the exchange rate is. 10. So $10 million pounds plus all marketing, all that stuff. Got 505 games, a fucking single player game from Remedy, and you're telling me all the other publishers, Sony, Nintendo, were basically balking at that $10 million? Jez, what is going on? $10 million.
I feel, well, okay, there's two possibilities here. There's a possibility that Remedy just wanted full control of it, and
very well.
They accepted the deal that was best for them because they're pretty staunch about keeping their independence, and or it is going to be very, very budget sort of game. We're not going to get Quantum Break visuals on £7 million. But I don't know. You know, it's another one. So you just don't know. The industry's in such a weird place right now, where it just doesn't feel like it's easy to predict things. You know, games that you expect are going to be amazing turn out to suck. Like I was so sure that The Division was going to be amazing and blow everything away. I think I actually called it a Destiny killer in one of my previews. You know, I was so sure of that game, and then you play it, it's like, oh.
And it's still the best-selling like Ubisoft game ever. Well, at least for like.
Yeah, but God, it died like a rock, and you know, like For Honor as well. I was really sure of For Honor, and who's talking about For Honor now? No one. So like nowadays, it's like I kind of feel like, wow, you just can't rely on anything, you know. And then you get games like PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, which come out of nowhere and capture this huge mindshare without any marketing, just on word of mouth and streams on Twitch and Beam, and it's just blown up and up, and for games feels really volatile right now.
Right,
so,
and look, well, I was just going to say,
one sec.
Okay, get your point across, Jez.
I'll get my point across.
Get your point across.
I was just saying, like, if I was Phil Spencer right now, he's in a weird position where he's got like games like Horizon Zero Dawn and stuff, which are selling systems, but they shouldn't be, because it goes against what prevailing trends say that all games should be like Overwatch now. And and then you've got Microsoft's attempts to make service-driven games not sort of working out that well. And you know, I think Microsoft really need to find their niche, you know, for their first party.
You ever see The Incredibles?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I do.
Remember what the villain says in that movie? When everybody's
Which,
special, nobody will be, right?
yeah, yeah, good point.
Well, when every game is a service-based game, like people like there'd be too much multiplayer for everybody, so they're going to want something else. And then a game like Horizon Zero Dawn looks intriguing and different because it is different. My what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, there is going to be a saturation point for these market-driven games, especially like if all Microsoft are making is service-driven games, they're going to cannibalize each other. You know,
yeah,
it's
which is if you look at Sony, they don't. I mean, I know Uncharted has multiplayer and so does Last of Us, but a lot of their games they build are kind of single player only. It seems like they don't want to step on the toes of third parties too much, or they try to compete in that arena. Or maybe Sony's just like, you know what, we'll let the third parties build those games,
yeah. I
right?
mean that's a pretty smart way of doing it, to be honest, um, because you're giving fans a sort of something that the big publishers aren't giving right now, which are games that are a little bit more pure, I guess. I mean, I doubt there's any microtransactions in Horizon Zero Dawn. You know, that's
Right.
a sort of a more classic sort of experience, and those are the games that people play between playing service games. So, like, I play Battlefield One a lot, and that's my service-driven game. That's my go-to service game right now. So, like, between playing Battlefield One, I'll pick up something else. Like, I'm going to play Prey next week because I really love the demo, and Prey is my kind of game. You know, it's bloody and it's got aliens, and I like that sort of game. So I'm going to play Prey. But after I'm done with Prey, I go straight back to Battlefield One, which
Hmm.
I've got a premium pass, and I have purchased battle packs. I hate myself, but I have done it.
You've done.
So
I've never purchased any of that stuff.
I spent about $70 on Overwatch loot crates because I really wanted
Oh,
this one Diva skin. I just really wanted that skin, man.
really, really wanted that skin.
I really wanted that skin.
But
So
back to the Remedy thing real fast. Like I know that from what I can understand about this, like they're holding on to the IP. They're probably investing some of their own money into the game, obviously, because they're not building that game for just $10 million, clearly. Um, but if you look at the line of publishers that Remedy's worked with, they went from Rockstar to Microsoft to 505 Games. You can't tell me that is like a severe drop off in publishing partners. And then gotta ask yourself, well, why didn't Sony like want to pick that up? Why didn't Ubisoft or any of these other publishers? Like you get down to 505 Games, and for an investment of $10 million, they get the publishing rights to that game. Like as much as I like Quantum Break, I heard that game was a disaster for pretty much everybody involved.
mm,
And Alan Wake didn't sell particularly too well either. I think it sold better than Quantum Break, but like as I think there's this cult love for Remedy, but like I don't think their games necessarily live up to the hype or sales levels that other developers like a Naughty Dog would. Because remember that whole thing that was going on like between Naughty Dog and Remedy at the time of the
yeah,
release of
yeah,
the
yeah.
games, and it was just like I almost kind of thought like it was like Remedy trying to like hang like oh we're on the same level as Naughty Dog, but like clearly they're not. And this is coming from somebody who like I haven't played any of the Uncharted games, so I couldn't tell you how good they are. But I mean, I have played all the Remedy games, and they're good, but they're not. I wouldn't classify them as like amazing or anything. So, um, yeah,
Yeah, they're sort of like they're overspec. You know, it's like they could have done Quantum Break without the budget they did do it with, and it would have been just as fun and just as engaging. You know,
mhm.
like Max Payne 1 and 2, they're amazing games, and they're still amazing now. But they didn't have the budget that Quantum Break had, And Quantum Break doesn't really do anything that different from Max Payne 1 and 2, to be quite honest. It's a linear shooter with cool effects and, cut and sort of like transmedia cutscenes. So, like in Max Payne, it was the comic books. In Quantum Break, it's these high production value cutscenes. But in essence, there's not much innovation there. It's the same thing, but with more money thrown at it. So they could have made Quantum Break and done those scenes in comic book form for much cheaper. And honestly, I think it would have been just as good. Personally,
Well, TRZ Reactor says, would it have been a success without Resolution Gate, referring to Quantum Break?
I don't know.
Because I mean,
this is always the question. It's like, would Quantum Break have done better if it was a PlayStation exclusive? Would the media be more receptive to it? I don't want to be that conspiracy theorist kind of guy, but you have to wonder if like there is a sort of residual resistance to anything that's got a Microsoft logo on it.
I don't know about that. Like, people have done case studies of Xbox AAA exclusives versus Sony's PS4 AAA exclusives on Metacritic, and they virtually all have the same score. So, like, while there might be what some people would call a media bias in the coverage of both platforms, when it comes to actual reviewing of the games, it seems people judge them fairly or evenly, you know? So, like, I think his question was more like the 720p thing, remember? Because it came out, it was 720p, it was using checkerboard rendering, everybody was making fun of it, yada, yada, yada. Now checkerboard rendering is like God's tits on the PlayStation. Everybody loves it on the Pro. So if the game was 900p or 1080p, would have sold better. I don't know. I think. Look, I mean,
don't think so. You know, I played Quantum. The first thing I did when I got my Razer Blade was I put Quantum Break on and put it at 4K, because I always wondered what it would look. Because I wrote in my review for Quantum Break that it pushes the Xbox One to its absolute breaking point. You know, there's like effects flying all over the place, and it still looks gorgeous. You know, and the faces are rendered in a huge amount of detail for what they are, and there's a lot going on, considering it's a linear shooter. You know, well, not really shooter, but it's sort of like somewhere between a shooter and an action game, and it's a gorgeous game. But I put it into 4K on my Razer Blade, and it didn't really enhance my experience in any way. It's still just Quantum Break, you know. It just looks a little bit nicer.
And I see people bringing up Order 1886 in chat, which was at the time one of the best looking console games, but also didn't sell very well. I mean, Ready at Dawn is making Deformers, and you know, like, so I don't know.
Somewhere.
Oh, you have a well, it's an okay game, but it's definitely not worth $30. So I don't know, man. Like, would it have performed better if there wasn't the resolution gate around it? Maybe a couple more people would have bought it, but I don't think that was necessarily Quantum Break's problem. I think Quantum Break's problem was the
it was just over-spec'd. You know, it didn't need to have all that pomp and complexity, and there was confusion about the product. You know, it was like people were like, is this a movie? Is this a TV show?
Yeah.
There's a confusion about the product. It's like Microsoft to have this uncanny skill to create confusion around their products, you know. And the Xbox One original launch had all this confusion. It's, oh, I can't play used games on this. To this day, there are still people out there saying the Xbox doesn't have used games, and you know, and just yesterday, Microsoft created a hell of a lot of confusion by saying that Windows 10s would be for devices designed that are $200. And then they announced the Surface laptop for $1,000 running Windows 10s, and everyone's confused about that. And even I was confused, you know. So Microsoft have this amazing, amazing skill to confuse consumers, and Quantum Break was a confusing proposition when it launched, and it confused reviewers as well. Like, I saw like some prominent reviewers, like Angry Joe, like it was Max Payne, not using any powers, trying to use cover mechanics and stuff. People were confused about that game.
Well, yeah, I saw Jeff Gertzman, Giant Bomb. He played the same way, and it's like, look, if you're playing that game as a cover shooter, I understand why you don't like it, because it's, you know, like
it's not a cover shooter.
Yeah, it's not a cover shooter. Like, I never took cover in that game, but no, I mean,
you meant to run around, use your powers, you know, and then the gun is a means to an end. It's like an execution, you know. But
Yeah.
they didn't communicate that properly in the marketing, and even the gameplay doesn't really communicate that properly in its tutorials and stuff. And then you have
Mhm.
the cutscenes and stuff, which I love them. Like, I don't want to spoil it if anyone watching this still wants to play it, but there's this one scene with what's his name now? The bad guy, Paul Serene. There's this one scene with Paul Serene in one of the options where he gets like a statue, and he's in the room with that other person. Do you know what I'm talking about? Well, the scene's crazy, and I was just like, my jaw was on the floor, and I was like, wow, this is crazy shocking. You know, it's up there with the crazy scenes in The Witcher 3 for me. And then and but it's like, could this have been told using in-engine cutscenes that would have been cheaper, would have got the game out faster, and would have been less confusing for consumers and reviewers? You know, I think they got themselves into this sort of mindset of, we're being innovative here, but it wasn't really that innovative, you know. I don't know,
Yeah,
but
the problem with Quantum Break, and
this
you
turned into
know,
a post-mortem of Quantum Break now.
right. Well, I mean, the problem with Quantum Break, and I don't know if this is the reason why it did well, but like this is probably the reason Microsoft didn't want to do another game with them, is because it took fucking forever to make. That's the end of this. And from what I understand about Phil, talking to him, like he likes games to ship on time. To like, and Remedy was working on that game for a long time, so that longer time they make it, the more it costs. Doesn't recoup its costs. Microsoft's had 3 games with them: Alan Wake, American Nightmare, and Quantum Break, and it's like, okay, well, clearly this isn't working, so let's move in a different direction. And Remedy went in
Yeah,
a different direction, and the publisher they decided to pick up was 505 Games, which, and the way they're talking about in this press release, this game is clearly going to be some sort of episodic, because they're like single player, but like engagement over the course of time. It's like, well, either that game's going to be rife with microtransactions, or that game's going to be episodic in nature. And maybe episodic is the way for Remedy to go. I don't know.
maybe episodic is just the way for single player games in general to go, if they're not going to be like huge budget like Horizon Zero Dawn or The Witcher or whatever. Maybe that's just the way things have to go nowadays. I mean, look at Hitman. Hitman is a tremendous game. It's an amazing game, but Square Enix weren't willing to front that risk by developing the game up front. You know, the front end investment of Hitman as a game. If it was all just one game, it would have been pretty big, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But because they split up the investment over time, they were able to recoup their investment over time. They were able to inject ways to keep people engaged. Like Hitman's like a single player but always online game, or at least it was. I think they might have patched it out now, but at the time it was always online, and they patched in new assassination targets over time to keep people interested in it. And it's you know, they kept it going for a really, really long time, and it worked out really well in the end, you know. And but they wouldn't have been able to do that with a upfront payment. So maybe it is just the way things are going to go for some single player games, or at least to get their brand established. Can you imagine if maybe, I don't know if it would have worked so well with Recore, but I don't know. Maybe if Quantum Break was episodic, maybe if that launched episodically, it wouldn't be so bad. Maybe we'd still be getting episodes now. Maybe if Alan Wake 2 was episodic, maybe that wouldn't be so bad, you know?
Yeah.
Uh, you know, I mean, it works pretty well for Telltale and stuff. And maybe that's just the way it can happen, where the company doesn't have to absorb all this risk, and there's just a lot of less stress involved for everyone. And if you don't want the episodic, like Cryptopsy just said, episodic is shit, just wait the year and buy it when it's complete, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't finished Hitman yet. I've done the first level, and when I go back to play Hitman eventually, I'll have a full game to play, and Square Enix will have, had a successful product. IO Interactive will have secure jobs. They won't have to worry about layoffs. Like PopCap Games just laid off a load of people as well. It's a turbulent industry right now. And I know these people like Cryptopsy in the chat saying, "Oh, episodic games are shit," blah blah blah. That's entitlement. These are real people who have real jobs, and the business aspects of this industry is a fucking reality. It's a fucking reality. So if you want these games to exist, there has to be a change for some developers. Either the graphics get scaled back and we get like lower budget games, we get more indie games that sort of fill in the gap of single player and stuff like that, like Outlast 2. That the budget on that isn't going to be massive. Is that the sort of AA sort of game that is going to fill the single player gap now? And then we wait every few years for a Witcher 3 to come out? Is that the way things are going to be? Or would you rather have a compromise and have it where it's episodic and you get Hitman, games like Hitman, which are very good, but they launch in bits and pieces? It's all about trade-offs.
Yeah, there's true. Like, I know a few people who didn't play Hitman because they wanted to wait for the full package, but the full package came out and they still haven't played it because they feel it's too old now. So
yeah, and this is there's that problem as well. And people in the chat are saying like, Zelda and Horizon Zero Dawn exists, but Xbox can't do it really. And it's kind of, this is another thing. It's like, you can't just throw money at this problem. Microsoft has $1 billion tax-free hidden and offshore accounts. They can't just free up $1 billion and create a AAA studio out of nothing. They can't just do that. There's not enough AAA talented developers to go around to make that a reality. Microsoft can't just create a AAA studio out of nothing. Some of these problems you just can't throw money at. And that's kind of Microsoft's problem right now, is that they don't really have the manpower to ship the games that people are expecting them to ship, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why we're waiting on the next Gears, we're waiting on the next Halo, because those companies don't have the manpower to split into two and work on multiple projects, which is something we were talking about earlier. So, my point is, it's fucking complicated, and people don't really appreciate that sometimes, I think.
Well, I see Crypto. He's all saying like it's not about money, it's about creativity and stuff. And I agree. Like, games are an art. And stuff, but at the end of the day, it's also a business. So it's like, of course, I would love Microsoft to bite the bullet and fund a bunch of huge artistic AAA single player experiences that will all fail. Hell yeah, do that. I don't care, because it's not my money. Like, I would love to play those games. Give me those games, right? But like, you do know, just from us talking about it and just knowing that, well, sometimes you can't do that. I understand why Microsoft doesn't, but I would love for them to do it. Like, I'm not really concerned about Microsoft's pocketbook. I don't care if they put out a game and the game fails, because that's not my money. It's not my investment, but they sure as hell do care, right? Like, those people at those studios do care. I don't care as a gamer. I just want to play a great game. Now, of course, when you say that, you also be like, well, maybe a gamer should care, because like, to get a game like that again, you need to support it and buy it, so the company does make money. So it's kind of this balance of artistic creativity, but also the business aspect that kind of has to balance.
Yeah, and that's why games get delayed. When a game gets delayed, that's weighing up the art and the business. It's like, do I want to ship this game now when it's unfinished, but at least we can recoup some of our investment, or do we want to delay it and make it as good as it can possibly be within reasonable constraints for money? So that's why games get delayed. Like, before Scalebound got cancelled, it already got delayed, like at least once, maybe twice. The Witcher 3 famously got delayed by a huge amount, and CD Projekt were like, we want to make this game as good as it can be. Can you imagine what The Witcher 3 would have been like if they hadn't delayed it? Would it have been significantly worse? Would it not be the most awarded game of all time? If they hadn't made that choice. But it's a hard balance to strike, and I do think Microsoft are struggling to figure out where that balance lies. It does feel like that sometimes. Like we get games like Gears of War 4 launching with bugs, especially on PC, and games like Dishonored 2 completely broken on PC, and then Batman Arkham Knight obviously completely broken on PC as well, and sometimes the business aspect just catches up, and it's like
Hmm.
we can't wait anymore. We have to release this now, blah blah blah, and it can either be a good thing or a complete tragedy. There are games that sort of turn it around. Like look at Rainbow Six Siege. Rainbow Six Siege launched a total mess,
It sure
networking
did.
problems, and then now it's one of the most played games on Xbox Live. So
Yep.
it can be turned around, but Microsoft hasn't found that balance yet. I think between investment and um, the art, and I think part of that comes down from the top because they are obsessed with subscription services from the top down now. Windows 10 is now a service, and they want people to spend money in the App Store. They want people to buy subscriptions to OneDrive, Xbox Live, Office 365, Groove and stuff like that. They're all about subscriptions now. And I do think that's a top-down thing that Phil Spencer's having to sort of try and work around. I don't think Phil necessarily loves service-driven games. I think it's more like this is something that's coming down from the top. Like Terry Myerson is Phil's boss, and Terry Myerson's job is to monetize Windows. That is his job, you know. So that's why we got a Windows 10 S now announced yesterday, which is a Windows 10 store version of Windows. That's Myerson trying to monetize Windows, and Myerson is obviously saying to Phil, if you're going to greenlight these projects, then they have to have a monetization model that makes sense. That's why the Phantom Dust the Phantom Dust port has microtransactions in it.
Oh no.
Again, an
Oh no.
OG Xbox game that has no business having microtransactions has microtransactions in it because obviously at some point along its development, they were like, the only way we can possibly justify the investment on this port is to slap some microtransactions in it. So that's coming down from the top, and it's damn annoying. It's really fucking annoying. But these are the constraints that Phil Spencer's playing with right now. Is getting these projects greenlit while being constrained by the impetus to make sure that they are in the green,
Well,
or
yeah.
in the black. Or
It doesn't surprise me that Phantom Dust has microtransactions. I mean, it's got that card system. Microsoft loves their card microtransactions, but
fucking hate cards. Can I just say
I
that
know.
right now? I
I
hate
mean, everybody,
cards. I'm sick of
everybody.
them.
Yep. Well, get used to them because they're going to be in everything. But yeah,
It's
that's
so annoying.
gonna.
I step into every game. I started playing Heroes of the I'm going off on a rant now. Sorry, Ren. But I started playing Heroes of the Storm this week, and I was like, yeah, I really like this game. And then fucking cards straight after the match. It's like, you can't escape these goddamn cards. I hate them. Sorry.
Right.
Carry on.
Well, I was just gonna say, this would be a good point to end the show because I do gotta head out. But before you guys go, make sure you hit that like button, sub to the channel if you haven't already, and follow Jez on Twitter. His link is in the description. Check out his articles on Windows Central because they're really good.
No, they're not.
Because Jez is a good dude. Jez is a good dude. But
Yeah. Don't
what do you got
follow
going on?
me.
What do you got going on for the rest of the week? Got anything interesting?
No, not really. Nah, I'm working on Scorpio information right now. Scorpio dev kit information. You might have seen my tweet with the Scorpio LCD panel. That comes from a larger trove of information. So I'm currently working through that. Just going to be dev kit information. There might be something interesting like those comparison pictures I showed, but I don't know yet. I don't know. And SpongeBoo is right. I only post pictures of snails, slug pictures, and dong sliders on Twitter, so don't follow me. It's just a complete waste of time to follow me on Twitter. But
Right.
that's pretty much
I follow you on Twitter.
I don't know why. I just
Because that's so I can
just
DM
shit
you and be
post all
like,
day.
"Hey, buddy, what's going on?"
Oh, that's very kind.
You know,
That's very
and I take a look at your tweets. But as for me, I'll be posting videos every day as I normally do, whether they're opinion pieces or it Rens Indie Spotlights. I have a couple of those planned. We'll see if I actually do it. But hey, play Little Nightmares because it's freaking amazing. That's the game I really liked recently. And with that, we're going to end the show. Hit that motherfucking like button. And yeah, we will see everybody next week on Wednesday for episode number 8. Who knows what we'll be talking about next week because shit. Hopefully, Phil says something again, so we got something to talk about.
well. It's Bill next week.
Okay. I'm sure. I'm sure we'll have something to talk about next
There
week.
is going to be Xbox things next week at Build, so stay tuned.
So, stay tuned for that. All right, later, guys. Hope everybody has a good rest of the day.
Much
Peace.
love.